kind of getting to know the student, right? Like particularly with writing conferencing, you can talk to the student in your room and kind of figure out how they think about ideas, how they think about language, also how they interact.
I think when you're with someone who's very knowledgeable on the subject, like such as a teacher, they're able to kind of help you find your mistakes or what you could have done better or where you could transition your ideas more smoothly, because when you're just told them by a peer or by a book or something, those lessons don't stick. And the only way to break bad habits in writing or math or science or whatever is to really understand why you do it this way versus that way.
I mean, I think that conferencing is a conversation, but it's got like a purpose, right? When you're conferring, you're like coming together for a purpose.
Yeah, I like how it's specific to you, so you're understanding what you need to do to make your work better versus what the whole class needs to do to get their work done.
It's the best way to get to know a student. Like I've had students in the past who struggled in class, maybe weren't too happy with their scores or grades in the schools where I was, and then when I actually got to sit down in conference and I've watched it kind of build my relationship with the student over the semester, and then they can progress because they feel comfortable and they know that I just want to hear what they're thinking and then help them express that more clearly.
I like how quite close I've gotten with Mark with meeting with him. I think like we've built like a pretty good relationship through the conferences. That's probably one of the best things, is like how well your teacher gets to know the student.
Usually I go to the conference with questions about how I can make my writing better, or I've reviewed specific sections that I've identified as areas of weakness in the piece, and then I'll go to the teacher and sort of discuss specific things and also more general things such as structure and theme.
I'm very sensitive to the idea that human beings are only ready to take in the information that they're ready to take in. And so I may have a ton of information I want to load onto a kid, but they're only available to a certain, it's like the growing edge metaphor, where like they may need to get, their little leaf is this big and they may need to get this big. They can only grow where their edge is, the zone of proximal development.
Common occurrence is, especially among students, is that you get your written feedback, and some of it makes sense to you, but the parts that don't make sense to you, I feel like you rarely see students then following up.
When I give general comments, I often feel like students might read them, might not, and the comments that they seem to focus on are where I'm focusing on specific pieces and saying, you need to change your point sentences, or you need to work on your reflection, and then they'll do it there in that one place where I've said that, and not see the trend and like go back and try to go in depth. Whereas if you have a conference and say, right, we need to talk about analysis, and then you can engage with them and say, all right, I see it here, where else do you see it? And then they can go and engage with it with you.
A lot of what I get in comments is more basic feedback, and I think it's hard to explain something less tangible in writing, something such as structure or like overarching themes, or like if there's a major problem in your essay, a comment isn't really going to solve it. So while it does seem more efficient to do it that way and it works in a pinch, I don't think it's as beneficial, because you just can't convey the same feedback through writing as you can through having a personal interaction with someone.
So much more effective than any comments I ever give on students' work in the past. There is no question to me that the time spent with them it's an investment in their growth, and it's an investment in our relationship, and it's additionally an investment in the classroom climate. It's about getting to know the student well enough to understand and help them be able to see things that they couldn't otherwise address in their own writing without building that relationship and trust first.
Well, I think I've tried to be more intentional, especially this year, asking people in the beginning how things are going or where they're at. And so even if I, in my mind, have some things that I want to make sure that I talk about, that I kind of invite them to tell me some stuff first, rather than just jumping in with, I looked at this and here are the problems and let's fix them.
Well, because I think actual education is a blend of whole group experience and individual instruction, ideally. And so to speak to them as a whole group is effective up to a point, and then there's a percentage of like learning or growing edge where that diverge from each other, and you've just got to meet those people one-on-one. And whether that happens in the classroom or outside the classroom doesn't really make a difference.
I had one teacher who would force me to conference with her. We didn't have free bands, we didn't have conferencing bands, but she would come to me in class and she'd say, Mark, you should come by after school, we're gonna talk about this. Mark, you need to join reading club. And I looked at her, I don't join things, I don't do this. And she kept pushing and she wouldn't leave me alone. And she made me come to reading club. She made me meet with her and talk about what I was writing. And it's a big part of why I teach today. The biggest part of why I teach today is to kind of do for students what she did for me.
I think conferencing definitely has a stigma to it. And I think there are kids that are afraid of the idea of conferencing or one-on-one, revision. But I think that the main thing that is not really grasped in that is that a conference isn't a discussion of what you did right versus what you did wrong. It's an opportunity to talk through what you've done and discover on your own how you can improve it.